For more than 150 years, Trinity University has celebrated human inquiry. Our innovative curriculum is rooted in a distinctive blend of the liberal arts and sciences. Students and faculty hone creative curiosity by answering questions and questioning answers. In a supportive, interdisciplinary environment, they seek ways to build bridges and make connections. And with intentional meaning and purpose, they are driven by a sense of duty to themselves and to the world. Add in opportunities for undergraduate research, experiential learning, and nationally recognized pre-professional programs in business, communication, healthcare, education, and entrepreneurship, you get the full Trinity experience. The liberal arts plus. And while this experience may end with a Trinity degree, it's just the beginning of a lifetime of inspired exploration and perpetual discovery.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back in here in San Antonio as we get underway in the second action of our doubleheader, the third game of this series here between University of Wisconsin-Whitewater and the Trinity Tigers here on the campus of Trinity University in San Antonio, Texas. And that first at-bat, the action was skied out to center field. You see pitcher Samuel Conti back in that typical number 26 that we're used to on the Tiger side. Had a little bit of change of wardrobe last weekend when we wore the whites. He was out there as number 9. Comes back and hits the second batter of the evening. The Warhawks took game 1 here on the day with the Tigers in what was a spectacular showing in the bottom of the 9th inning. We're able to win in the opening action last night. So this series all tied up at 1-1. Both games to this point have been incredibly entertaining as Conti pumps that fastball in there for a strike. Count evens at 1-1. Number 13, Jacob DeMeyer steps in here. It's the third batter for the Warhawks in this one.
We'll get you starting lineups here momentarily as we are still awaiting those. The coaches had told us that it would be 7 o'clock start time, and then they kind of put it out there about 10 minutes till. So hopefully those of you who saw the note, 7 o'clock start time, aren't thrown for too much of a loop. We were caught off guard as well. Run down the lineup here for Game 3 of this series for Whitewater. Campbell leading off, Vomhoff, then DeMeyer. It'll be Corman, Rupnow, Skolin, Norton, Paget, Jackson, and on the mound, Enfing is checking over on Campbell after his leadoff single. And that was, I believe, the lineup from Game 1. We just received Game 2's lineup, so we haven't gotten that put into the system just yet. And then for the Tigers, it'll be Haney, Lesniewski, Gore, Metz, Thunderhar, Schaub, Holloway, Harris, McNaney, and Conte. So Conte on the mound for the Tigers. 1 out, 1 on.
I think the biggest change in the lineup that you noted, Josh, was Tanner out there at shortstop for the second action of the doubleheader. If you were with us earlier today, you know the Tigers struggled in the infield defensively. They finished Game 1 of the doubleheader with 5 errors. It was a game that Whitewater ultimately won 7-3. Those errors playing a big part in the final outcome of that. So the Tigers continue to play with their lineups, both offensively and defensively, earlier on here in the season as they look to find the group that they're most comfortable with.
First pitch now to Corman. Be fouled off for strike 1. Campbell led off with a fly out to center. Vomhoff was hit by a pitch. And DeMeyer, I believe, walked. That's the last batter. Corman stepping in, playing third base. And the lefty from Boston delivers for a strike. Count will be 1-2. Fantastic series so far. Tigers with a walk-off yesterday, 10-8. And the Warhawks, a bit of fantastic opportunity and great pitching, clutch pitching, after Tigers had the game-tying run come to the plate in the 8th and the 9th innings. Warhawks taking Game 1 of this doubleheader today by a score of 7-3. Corman will be down on strikes. They're 2 down. And we'll just keep you updated here with the balls and strikes and everything else as we get going on the stats, because, as we mentioned, they had told everybody 7 o'clock start time, so everybody was anticipating that. And then, fortunately, Luke was following the screens and was like, hey, Conti's warming up. I think we're ready to start here. And 6:50, we rolled on out. Rupp now, the first baseman, stepping in with 2 down and 2 aboard on first and second. And it really wouldn't be a Division III game without it will start at 7 and then roll on out at 6:50.
And we talked so extensively last weekend about Conti's routine and him being a creature of habit. I have to wonder when he started warming up and how closely Coach Scannell wanted to try and start this one according to his schedule.
Somewhat shaky on the beginning, but if he can retire Rupp now here, it'll be a better start than he had in his last outing against Babson.
Yeah, it took him some 30 to 40 pitches in that game to really get comfortable on the mound, but once he got to that point, he cruised for another 40 to 50 pitches. Had himself quite a day, ultimately going 5 innings, allowing just 6 hits and 3 earned runs. Followed up a really impressive opening weekend victory against Washington University in St. Louis, where he went 6 innings pitched, striking out 11.
McNaney just needs to throw somewhere, and he does. And that'll be a force out, and that should end the inning. I don't know if the umpire actually made the call. Everybody's assuming that was a strike. First base was occupied, so there's no run. And you can kind of hear the chatter going on behind us. And we are, I think, trying to listen in just as much as everybody else, because I'm curious as to what was actually called. I think a ball was called. But I'm curious because the runner took off running to first with 2 strikes. So, Rupp now will come back in, and I believe that was a ball called.
Obviously a really disruptive play right there, so be interesting to see how Conti is able to respond right here in a 2-2 count. Opportunity to end the inning. Rupp now doing a nice job of battling that one off. That pitch right there is something that I think we saw as Conti ventured further into his last outing and really settled into the game. He was able to spot that fastball on the inside part of the plate, and it really allowed him to be in total control out there on the mound.
Rupp now doing a good job of continuing to foul off pitches. So I have 2 aboard as we have hit the top of the hour here, 7 o'clock. Kind of a pitch away from getting out of the inning. Rupp now looking to extend it. And that is a swing and a miss. Conte through the top half of the first. And for the Tigers, when we return, it'll be Haney, Wisniewski, and Gore. You're watching the Tiger Network, Game 2 of today's doubleheader. And what would be the rubber match, except for we have Game 4 of the series tomorrow. We'll be back for the bottom half of the first in just a bit. Get a look there at Cam Anfang, the junior, Sullivan, Wisconsin. And for friends that closely follow the Whitewater team, if we are mispronouncing that, just please let us know, and we will get that corrected. Received a pretty detailed pronunciation guide from the sports information department at Whitewater, but his was not on there, unless I am just completely blind, which is a possibility. It'll be Haney to lead it off for the Tigers. First pitch looks good from Anfang and in for a strike.
And after last night, when we saw Weston Muir, so far in the day, we've seen a lot of new names on the mound for this Whitewater squad. Anfang coming in without any statistics on the mound based on what we've been provided with. So far, the Tigers not having a ton of trouble with the arms that have started games and have come into ball games out of the bullpen for the Warhawks. The big issue in that last one was the fact that the Tigers did strand 17 runners on base. They lost that one by just 4 runs. So they have the opportunity to right the ship almost immediately. A pretty good feeling to have the opportunity to come out, play another baseball game, earn another win, especially after you drop game 1.
Anfang was getting loose in the pen in the 9th inning in game 1 of the day, and that's going to be a line out into left field. And Haney with a good piece on it, but coming over and making a very nice catch on that's going to be Scullin, and Scullin has Anfang with the first out. We apologize for the crowd, Mike, that's going to be cutting in and out at different times. Basically, we've set it up to where anytime we play the music in between innings, or if we play it as a walk-up song, it's going to cut that music out, and so the crowd mic will automatically cut down. And that's just to keep the stream up and live. We have had issues with YouTube in the past where they will just cut the stream entirely if a copyrighted song is played. So trying to keep the stream going for everybody. That one rolled over to Corman, and he's off the line. Takes Rupp now up the right field line, and Wisniewski will be aboard via error.
See that half-hearted swing from Wisniewski right there. Checked it, but really got enough of the barrel on it to send that one on to third base, and it seemed like Corman, who's playing over there, rushed it a little bit more than he perhaps needed to. Ultimately pulled Rupp now off the bag, and when it looked like the Tigers were going to have 2 down here to start the game in the bottom of the first, Ezra Gore now comes up to the plate, looking to redeem himself after a rough start to the day, finishing the first action 0 for 6, but he only struck out once, and so far in the series, he's put the barrel on the baseball a number of times, done a really good job with the bat in his hands. And like a number of the Tiger hitters early on in this season, I think it's just a matter of seeing the baseball fall in at some point. Saw it happen for Vonderhaar in the action yesterday, and he turned right around later on, depositing that game-tying home run over the right field wall in the bottom of the 9th inning. So there's a number of names that we'll be calling in the lineup here today who will be looking for similar help.
Of course, the score bug is still a bit delayed. Now Gore's going to ground this one over. Corman over to second, then over to first. Gore's going to beat out the double play. Corman erases his error. Wisniewski out at second. And so it'll be a fielder's choice for Ezra Gore. There are 2 down in the inning with Gore on first. A nice piece of pitching here from Anfang early on. He's keeping the ball down low, which I think has been maybe a little bit of the issue that, at least when I was calling the game last night, I saw like a lot of the pitches were left up, and that's when the Tiger hitters were able to start depositing those over the fence. Guys like Schaub and, as you mentioned, Vonderhaar, Pettit with the walk-off. Metz earlier today, although Pettit's was almost skipped down in the dirt, and he went down and got it. So Metz still batting shade under 500 at 448 on the year. See the second home run. That was back in game 1 a couple of hours ago. And he's got runner on first, and a check over, and Gore back in safely.
Both of these teams doing a really nice job so far in this series. You mentioned those pitches up in the zone, what the Tigers have been able to do with them. But on the other side, this Whitewater team, in conjunction with the Tigers, to be honest with you, have done a really nice job with those pitches that you mentioned not being particularly close to the zone.
Gore's going to take off. That one sails into center field, and Gore will take an extra 90 after the stolen base. E2 on the throw, allowing the extra 90 feet. And now runner at third. Tigers plagued by errors in game 1, and now the Warhawks with 2 here in the bottom of the first. It's early in the season. And an opportunity for these teams to come in here and get some legs underneath them. And that was a check swing, going to be called for a strike as Mets couldn't hold up. But I think for both teams, I think when they go into looking at what they do over the next few days, I think getting back to some of the fundamentals I think is going to be vital. And I think for Trinity, I think some of that just starts with the mental aspect of the game. Game 1, I saw runners not taking off from first base on a full count with 2 outs. Just situational things that they're just not completely locked in on just yet. That's going to be called a strike. I was going to say, with somebody 6'6", the strike zone, even though you try to keep a strike zone relatively the same for all hitters, that one's going to be slightly exaggerated with Mets up there. And a good pitch from Anfang. That's outside, and there is the walk. First base was open. Now we got runners at the corner. I believe Schaub is due up. No, excuse me, it's going to be Vonderhaar. And Vondi up to 259 on the year. The home run from last night. 3 runs and 3 RBI. Tigers through 8 games. Going to need a lot more production out of Vonderhaar than what he's given so far. But in the past 2 games, we've seen a pretty good piece of improvement here from Jack, at least with the approach at the plate. And that looked like Anfang took a little bit off and Vonderhaar out in front of the first pitch, probably thinking he's gone first pitch fastball the last few batters. Let's see if I can run into one. Nice piece of work from Anfang, and now he brings the second one up and away.
I think the one thing that we've seen these Tiger hitters really lack is the willingness to consistently go the other direction with the baseball. Obviously, you have some guys in this lineup like Vonderhaar and Metz, Schaub, waiting in the on-deck circle who have the power in their bats to send it over the strong side field, pull the baseball to right for Vonderhaar. Another number of bats willing to go over the left field wall, but that's exactly what the Tigers have needed, and Vonderhaar delivers after a couple of games in a row where we've seen him get robbed in the outfield. He's really settled in nicely and just adapted to what opposing pitchers have given him, and see him just stick the bat head out there on a pitch that was on the outside part of the plate. And he sent it exactly back to where it came from.
And Trinity with a couple of their own seeing eye singles to bring in some runs. So Whitewater with a bunch of that in game 1. Now Trinity on top here early, 1-0 in the first, although you could say the same for game 1. They were ahead 2-0 after 1. And Whitewater ultimately, hate to see a pitcher get stopped mid-motion. Looks like Anfang is okay on that. You see Schaub's production line, solid 321, 8 RBIs, 6 runs now on those 2 home runs from last night. OPS pretty solid 9.95, but at this point last year for the Tigers, that thing was hovering around 2.0 early on in the season. There's a chopper, and Corman was going to let that one go over to short, and that one gets away. We'll have to take another look at it, as it looked like it was a good throw. I don't know if it skipped into first. And Schaub running this one out pretty hard, forcing the throw. Yeah, and just it wasn't a bad hop. I think it just caught Rupp now a little bit handcuffed. Not much he could do with it.
Yeah, and Corman playing over there at third base began to range over to his left, but he was moving more so to second base.
Yeah, I feel like it's probably the better move to let that one go, because you feel like maybe the shortstop would have that one a little bit more cleanly, but didn't work out for the Warhawks, and that one's fouled up and possibly a play to be made. Looking at Rupp now, and he's going to watch that one go into the dugout or just beyond the dugout.
And you mentioned possibly or seemingly a makeable play over there at shortstop that ultimately led to that second Tiger run coming across in the bottom of the first. It seems especially possible or makeable after the performance that we saw out there. And from this defense in the first game of the day, they finished with an error, but it was tremendous improvement compared to last night's affair where they finished with 3. We've talked about it already pretty extensively, the fact that this has been their first real opportunity to get on the field and to put everything together. Obviously coming down from Wisconsin, where they haven't been afforded the opportunity to take fly balls. It showed last night, but they certainly shored up some things in the outfield earlier today.
Yeah, fairly well-rounded game one for the Warhawks, and kind of looked like a team that you expected to come in here, the team that we kind of expected to see last night. They cut down on some of those mistakes. They capitalized, as you mentioned, on, I almost want to say, almost all of the opportunities that Trinity really handed them. And Holloway just continuing to pop these up. And he will have another chance. I think it's one thing to say a guy's fighting off pitches and staying alive. It's another to look at it and maybe be a little weary of the amount of pop-ups that we're seeing out of Holloway. I haven't seen him put barrel on the ball just yet. Ooh, that one laid off and given a ball. I think that's the difference you see if that were Mets, I think that's a strike. And Holloway, a tad shorter, gets the benefit of the ball.
I'd certainly agree with you there. And given the fact that Holloway had taken some rips at some pitches in similar locations in regards to width, that one obviously a little bit more upstairs. Surprising that he lays off of that one. Certainly with the strike zone that we've seen so far today, a pitch that could be called either way, but seemingly one that Holloway would be able to do a little bit more with. Anfang coming back with that breaking ball, does a nice job pulling the string after a long battle, thrown so many consecutive fastballs to Holloway right there. Caught him well out ahead of that one. Sends his team into the dugout, but not before the Tigers are able to score a couple of runs here in the bottom of the first. We'll be back in just a second with the top of the second. Warhawks coming up to bat.
Skolin will step in here, top of the second against Conti. And Conti started him off with a ball. And the 1-1 to Skolin. Blew it by him. I think Skolin was maybe expecting something off speed. I just kind of chased after it.
For Conti, already more run support than he got at any point last weekend as he comes back right there against Skolin. Punch out the lefty on just 4 pitches. Looks really comfortable, settled in much more quickly than he did last weekend in that game where the Tigers went down 3-0 early on. They were able to scratch a couple runs for him, but he pitched from behind the entire time he was out there. Certainly a tough task. It's the same thing that the Tigers did in the first action of today's doubleheader. They were able to scratch a couple for Corey Cater, typical Friday starter for Trinity. At the top of the second, Warhawks were able to come back out, scratch a couple of their own, and tie things up at 2. Talked in that first broadcast about that elusive shutdown inning, being able to come back out onto the mound, retire 3 straight has been something that the Tigers have struggled with. But if Conti's able to do so, have to like the odds that it would help out his hitters. He comes back there with another great breaking ball, dropping that one into the strike zone. Another 3 pitches for Conti and a second consecutive strikeout for the big lefty.
And Conte working quickly. Padgett fouling that one off to stay alive. News out of Abilene, Texas, the Trinity women's basketball team defeating the host Hardin-Simmons Cowgirls 61-57 in round 1 of the NCAA Women's Division III basketball playoffs. They'll be moving on to round 2. In a pretty daunting atmosphere going on the road for Coach Cameron Hill's squad. Pulling out the win in a place where they picked up an early season loss. Padgett will get the walk.
Conti losing Padgett right there on just 5 pitches. I think it goes to show why it has been so important, not just for Conti, but for pretty much the entirety of this Tiger staff to work to get ahead early in counts, as Conti does right there, coming back with that fastball on the inside half of the plate. Really allowed this pitching staff to sequence their pitches however they've wanted when they've gone ahead 0-1, 0-2. Warhawks have done a really nice job throughout the series of battling at bats, fouling pitches off, but I have to say, especially with Jack Martinez yesterday, as that one's dribbled and just stays foul, squeezing that first base line for MJ Metz to scoop up and step on the bag. These Tiger pitchers haven't lost the fights very often. As we see another fastball inside part of the plate, jamming Jackson right there and putting the Tiger defense back in the dugout. Quick inning for him right there, and we'll come back to the plate in the bottom of the second, looking to expand this lead.
bottom half of the second inning here, and it'll be Harris stepping in for the Tigers. Luke and I having a discussion in between innings about who the Whitewater shortstop is, because both the lineup cards have said Jackson, as that one is rolled over to second and trying to come up, make a play, and that one gets away. Now Harris will scamper over to second. The throw coming in from Vomhoff, going all the way back behind the backstop.
Get the replay right here and see if Vomhoff was actually able to field that one cleanly. Looked like he was set up originally defensively well up the middle. Looked like he did glove it cleanly, but just a long way to travel.
Yeah, it should go as a single and an error. And McNaney, the catcher for the Tigers now with a runner on second. But I was saying that the lineup card says Jackson. We're looking at the shortstop in between innings and just have a feeling that that's Rost. But it's number 3. But facially, it just looked like Ross from our perspective. So, and he played game 1 over at short yesterday. So, again, if anybody watching from Whitewater has really good beat on that, that would be fantastic.
I have to note that it's also on our official rosters that Daryl Jackson is wearing number 3 and Dylan Rost is in the number 2 uniform. So perhaps a little bit of confusion from the coaching staff after game 1, in which we saw these Warhawks in a purple number on black or gray jersey last night. They've switched it up today, and it's a similar issue that the Tigers have dealt with, not all the numbers being available across the board. Obviously, Samuel Conti, already mentioned, this past Sunday against Babson in the white uniforms was wearing number 9. Today, in his typical number 26 in these maroon uniforms for the Tigers. As we return to action here, McNaney up at the plate and 2-2 count, moves full after that last pitch missed down and away from Anfang. The Tiger catcher has his number called in the second action of the doubleheader after Tyler Pettit caught last night. That one's lifted out into the outfield, deep into left field. It's Harris that's tagging at second base, and he'll make it into third easily. So McNaney not able to drive the run in, but still gets a job done as you see him go down and lift that one into the gap out there. It was a good job out there in center field. That's Campbell that's been patrolling that area all weekend or all series for the Warhawks. Was able to get to that one and get it back in quickly, but Harris's speed just a little bit too much. Has the Tiger on third base, and Haney back up to the plate after we saw him send a line drive out to Skolin in left field. It's the second time this season that we've seen Haney hit the ball really hard on a line, unfortunately, just directly at someone on the defensive side.
And after I called strike, the curveball will get Haney swinging and missing. He's down 0-2. Looking to put the ball in play. That would help. Potentially move Harris from third to home and extend the Tiger lead. Tigers had a bit of an issue trying to bring in runners from third earlier today in game 1. Left the bases loaded in the 8th and the 9th, and Haney will come up empty for a second out of the inning. And Anfang with a much-needed and a huge strikeout. Now it's going to force Wisniewski to get a base hit here. You see Wiz just above the Mendoza line, now 208. 2 RBI, 5 runs. And for Jack had a couple of solid barrels on the ball, but starting off 0 for 1, and that one does get away. Harris will come across. And Tigers taking advantage here in game 2.
And that is Norton behind the plate again here in the second action of the doubleheader for the Warhawks. He's been really solid all weekend, but that fastball by Anfang missing 5 to 10 feet ahead of home plate. Not much that Anfang could do with the ball that spiked that hard from that distance. He does his best to get his body on it, but that one skips far enough away for Harris to score from third base, and he came in standing up, but he had enough speed that even if that had been a closer play, he'd likely be in there under a tag.
Was reached on a throwing error. By Corman earlier. Now he sends it down the other way. Sends it to Rupp now, and he'll fend it over to Anfang, who makes the play at the bag. And Trinity adds a run here in the second. We go to the third. Tigers on top 3-0. Whitewater looking to get things going offensively. We'll see what they have against Conte as they go back to the top of the order when we return. Zach Campbell will step in. He flew out to left. His first at bat in game number 2 today. Conte working back on the inside part of the plate. Gets the called strike. And can't imagine Campbell was happy about that. Nice open stance here for Campbell. Now Conte with the 0-2. Leaves it up high and away. Good pitch to see if Campbell would chase. And he does not. Campbell 1 for 6 last night. And 0 for 2 here in the third game of the season for the Warhawks as he stares at called strike 3.
And just a great pitch from Conti right there. You mentioned the delivery before, up high in the zone.
His 5th strikeout in 10 batters faced. Vomhoff, who done a little bit of everything. Pitched in game 1 of this doubleheader. It was hit by pitch. Batting .455 here in the series. Little chopper over to second, and that's going to be good enough for a base hit. Harris rolls over, picks it up, but can't do anything with it.
Again, not a bad pitch from Conti right there. These Whitewater hitters just all day long being content with what they've been given, trying to place these baseballs in the perfect spots in the infield. It's exactly what happens for Vomhoff there. You saw in the first action of the day, he doubled a couple of times to left field on pitches that were left on the outside part of the plate. He just sat back on that breaking ball for a real long time and sent it back up the middle. Not a hard hit ball by any means. Harris able to range over from second base and glove that one, but his momentum carrying him up the middle, and he's unable to deliver that throw onto first base.
Check over on Vomhoff is unsuccessful. Meyer struggling a bit here in the series. Looking to get things going in his 2022 campaign. Early on, just top of the third, one down. Conte's going to check back over, and Vomhoff, not even a real big lead off of first, but I think Conte looking to just mix it up, maybe disrupt the timing of DeMeyer, but also make sure that Vomhoff tries to stay close to the bag, and that's going to be a throw from McNaney, and that one gets a little bit away from Harris.
See the replay right here. Pretty good pitch to throw on for McNaney. That one left up, but a real close play. Vomhoff getting a good jump running on the left-handed Conti, likely going on first movement. You could hear on the broadcast the Tiger dugout yelling runner to let the catcher behind the plate know what was happening. A real bang-bang play, but ultimately for the Tigers, Haney playing over there at shortstop in this one of those defensive substitutions, unable to glove it and apply the tag on time. So now,
and as we were looking at the replays, I think they're going to say DeMeyer interfered with McNaney. He is out and the runner sent back to first. So Vomhoff back over, and I'll bring up Corman now with two down. A big hack.
Something that we saw last weekend from the Babson Beavers when Conti was on the mound. More often than not, sending runners when they got to first base, going on first movement against the left-hander. So it'll be interesting to follow throughout the rest of this one when we've already seen these Warhawk hitters run pretty liberally when they reached base. That even came against the likes of Tyler Pettit, one of the better defensive catchers that we have the pleasure of watching on the broadcast. But now McNaney behind the plate as a substitution for the Tigers. See what he can do to keep this running game in check.
And Conte just working it through the zone. Now 7 strikeouts here through 3 innings. And the Tigers will be up here in the bottom of the third. When we return, we'll come back with the D3Baseball.com scoreboard. Check out action around the country in just a bit. Welcome back, and as we said, we'll check out scores from around the country. We'll check in on number 1, Cortland, defeating Merchant Marine by a score of 10-1 today. Number 4, Adrian falling at Barry 13-7. And it was Southern Maine with a 7-5 victory in 10 innings over Johns Hopkins. It's number 13 Southern Maine, number 5 Johns Hopkins. Webster, number 12 on top of Transylvania, 13-7. And Lynchburg coming in at number 15. They were 15-4 winners over York as Ezra Gore steps in. He's 0 for 1 on the day. But he did come around and score a run back in the first inning. Continuing on, UT Dallas and Concordia. The Comets from UT Dallas falling in game one of their doubleheader 9-1. Shenandoah, number 18, defeating Keystone 13-4. Of course, Keystone, the team that Trinity beat back in 2016 to take the national championship. Number 19, Chapman, 3-1 victors over Claremont. Number 22, Washington Jefferson. The 3-2 win over LaRoche. I believe both of those teams were in the College World Series around the 2015-2016 seasons. Nice breaking ball from Anfang. It's called strike now, 2-2. Live action going on. Cal Lutheran falling behind Whitman now, 5-4 in the bottom of the ninth. Cal Lutheran is going to have a chance to see if they can come back as they are the home team. Whittier over Caltech, 11-7. Redlands 4-2 over Laverne. That one's in the 11th. And Southwestern and Susquehanna just getting started. That one up in Georgetown, I believe. Southwestern, the home team. And Gore, the chopper. High chopper. Nicely fielded by Anfang, but nobody's going to be there. And you're going to have somebody there because I don't think you're going to outrun Ezra down the first baseline, especially on a ball just chopped so nicely. And that should go down as a single. Just really well hit.
Yeah, perfect placement, something that we talked a lot about in the opening here today. The fact that Whitewater didn't have a lot of baseballs that they barreled against Corey Cater in that first game, but put him in the perfect spot in the infield, sometimes not even having to get the baseball past the Tiger infielders. Same thing from Ezra Gore right there, who got the opportunity to really show off his speed. And Fang coming back with a really nice pitch right there. Had a lot of break, a lot of movement in towards the hands, a lot of fade down towards the back foot of MJ Metz, who swing over the top of that one. It's a really brilliant pitch and a good way to attack the big right-handed hitter, but that one left too far up in the zone and sent into the right center field gap. That one's going to roll all the way to the wall. Ezra Gore's speed should bring him all the way in for the Tigers, and it will to make this game 4-0, and MJ Metz has another big double and another RBI for Trinity. See the replay right here, and that pitch again left up in the zone. Had some more good movement on it as it started on the outside part of the plate, but not far enough out there to be a backdoor surprise for MJ Metz, who barrels that one right over the heart of the plate, driving it into the right center field gap. And the Tigers, after stranding 17 earlier on today, have done a nice job with runners on base to this point. And they've done a nice job of capitalizing on errors. As MJ Metz takes off to third base, looks like he's going to be called safe over there. Vonderhaar had squared around to bunt, as you had seen from that last shot. That one in under his bat, maybe a bit inside, causing him to pull back. And allowed Norton, who's been really strong behind the plate defensively, to make a strong throw over there to third base, but Metz in under that tag. Just 90 feet away from a fifth run here in the early going for Trinity. Nanfang comes set on the mound. Delivers that fastball a little up in the zone, but catches enough of the plate to go down as a called strike. Vonderhaar already ahead in the count. 2-0, was taking all the way right there.
Pitch up. Vondy laid off of it. Be called a ball.
For Anfang, really important that he limits damage right here. Talked earlier in the broadcast about Mir, who was really impressive, but exited a little early in Thursday night's action. Other than that, we've seen a lot of new Warhawks on the mound, and you have to question how deep their bullpen is at this point in the year. A lot of new names that have been called on without any experience, even dating back to the 2021 campaign last season. That last walk to Vonderhaar will issue a visit to the mound. Looks like it'll just be a conversation between the coaching staff and Anfang. Anfang, again, not doing a terrible job to this point in the game. Go back to that first inning when Whitewater struggled a little bit defensively, made some errors that allowed the Tigers to scratch 2 runs across. On the day, he only has 1 earned run that's been charged to his name, but he's in trouble again here in the bottom of the third. Runners on the corners for the Tigers, and Brian Schaub stepping up to the plate already with 2 home runs in the series. Anfang doing a nice job after walking Vonderhaar in that last at-bat. After that mound visit, comes straight back to attacking the strike zone. Able to get that fastball past Brian Schaub and put himself ahead in the count 0-1. Anfang gives a check over to first base right there. Vonderhaar back in there safely, likely trying to keep Tiger outfielder honest over there. If he happens to take off, give Norton behind the plate an opportunity to throw him out and steal an out here in the bottom of the third inning for the Warhawks.
Nice pitch from Anfang, but down low in the zone. Schaub lays off, and it'll be called for a ball. Makes it 2-2. Left up.
Good job from Schaub right here, displaying that plate discipline that we see out of him so often. Refusing to swing at that last breaking ball that was a good offering. Same thing right there, perhaps an even better pitch. Anfang a little bit surprised that it wasn't a called strike to begin with, but Brian Schaub not willing to swing the bat at that. And after going down 0-2 in this count, drives it all the way full with a chance to load the bases here for the Tigers.
Anfang comes back with a really nice, like a slider down and away. It's a swing and miss from Schaub, and he's down on strikes. So 1 down now for Holloway. Holloway struck out back in the first. Grounded into a couple of double plays so far in this series. 292 on the year. Nice breaking ball coming in from Anfang, but so that one was left up in the zone. That one rolled back up. Could be another double play. Third time this series that Holloway has grounded into a double play. And that'll take us to the fourth. be back in just a bit.
We welcome you back in here, the campus of Trinity University in San Antonio, Texas, as the Warhawks return to the plate in the top of the 4th inning. Rupp now stepping back into the box after swinging through that first pitch. Skolin and Norton will be due up immediately after him. Umpire stepping back as if he was going to call that last pitch a strike, but will be a 1-1 count as that one misses just low, a little bit under the kneecaps of Rupp now.
Years ago when Callum Squires was calling games for us here on Tiger Network, he kept a list for the all-name team, and Carson Rupp now would not be a bad addition for an all-name team. Fantastic name that fairly uncommon. Looking to maybe get things going here for the Warhawks, as Conte has
a really nice job utilizing that fastball inside part of the plate, but more often than not, he's caught hitters looking with that breaking ball, that backdoor breaking ball. Been incredibly successful with it. Big reason that he has 7 strikeouts already on the day in just 3 innings pitched. So ahead 1-2 in the count right here. We'll see what he opts with.
Swung on and hit. Right back to Conte, who throws over. And now down for the second time. And this time he's able to put it in play. That'll take us to the 7th spot. And Ryan Norton. Norton 0 for 1 on the day. Shade under 600 on the season. Here in game 2 now. Or excuse me, that takes us to Skolin in the 6th spot. Jumped a batter ahead. And so the freshman standing in there, left-handed against the left-handed throwing Conte.
Conte catches the outside part of the plate with that last offering. Drawing this count even at 1-1. We haven't seen him fall way behind in counts at any point, and really more often than not, he's been ahead in the strike column. Tiger will run behind home plate to retrieve that last baseball that got away from McNaney. Again, we see that fastball control that Conti has illustrated today.
I think you would call a good miss there on the outside part of the plate. Came back with fastball and looked at a good 6 inches outside. Scullin not fooled by that one. Now Conti comes back in, tries to hang it over the very edge of the plate. He can maybe get the called strike. Fouled off. The count remains full. Appears that we're looking at a previous count there. And now the walk for Scullin as he's still 0 for 1, but now 1 for 2 for getting on base. Now Ryan Norton comes to the plate, batting .500 on the season, 6 for 12.
Well, Conti settled in really nicely in that game against Babson that we've already alluded to. So check over at first base. Scullin the runner there. Something that didn't get him in trouble but caused him a little bit of trouble was the fact that you've seen him pitch trying to strike out hitters so frequently. And then in situations like that last at bat where a hitter works back and draws a walk, just as Scullin did, plays a big part in inflating pitch counts, as we see Conti through 3 1/3 to this point has already hit that 60 pitch mark as he pumps that fastball in there to draw this count even at 1-1. Something that he dealt with in that game against Babson even after he had settled in. But at a 4-0 lead in the top of the 4th inning here, I think you'd hope that he'd start to pitch to contact a little bit, allow that defense to play behind him so he could have some quicker innings and allow himself to go deeper into these contests. After starting this at-bat off with the ball, he's again ahead 1-2 right here. He'll check over again at first base, but that ball gets away. That's going to allow Scullin to advance to second base. Not sure exactly what happened on that one. Mets over there defensively at first base again to start this game. That one found its way past him. And all of a sudden, Norton, who, as you mentioned, is started this season off incredibly well, hitting .600 coming into this game already, has the opportunity to drive in a run right here and to cut into this lead for the Warhawks. On the other side for Trinity, I think it's incredibly important that when they have these big leads, that they don't take them lightly and continue to pitch with intensity. But that one is left up in the zone, a hanging breaking ball that Norton is all over and absolutely crushes over the wall in left field. That one way out of here. Now the Warhawks find themselves squarely back in this game, cutting that 4-run lead in half with just one swing of the bat. Norton stays hot. After a campaign last year where he finished with 4 home runs, he has himself one in the 3rd game of the season in his opening weekend. As you see Vonderhaar out there in left field for the Tigers. All he could do was turn and watch that one go. Conti will look to settle back in here in the top of the fourth. With Nick Paget stepping back into the box.
This is the time that Conte's really got to just settle back in and fight back. Still up 2. But instead, he allows the tying run to come to the plate. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see a mound visit here. And here comes Dave Smith.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, though, for Conti right here. Just needing to settle back in, has been cruising to this point. Outside of that one ball, these Warhawk hitters have really struggled to put the barrel on the bat. He's been incredibly elusive on the mound. He's been in great command outside of a couple of free passes that he's issued to this point. And now for the Warhawks, they resumed that timely hitting that we saw in the first game after he issued that free pass earlier in the inning. Norton coming up to bat and depositing that one over the left field wall. It's only the second hit for Whitewater on the evening, though. Ultimately, it nets them 2 runs. Conti will check over at first base again. You see that look at who we believe to be Dylan Rost playing at shortstop and hitting in the 9-hole again for the Warhawks. He was the individual who was in that same position last night to open the season. But I'll remind you that the Warhawks did make a uniform change for the second day of the series, opting for those purple uniforms, and I think dealing with a similar issue that the Tigers have, not all the numbers matching up size-wise and availability-wise. Conti's delivery right there misses high. Ross will remain where he's at in the batter's box. The count will actually reset at 1-0. That one also missing outside. Conti struggling a little bit right now to find that release point and locate the strike zone again. But he does so right there. Finds himself squarely back in this at bat. The 2-1 count, an opportunity to exit this inning, holding those Warhawks to just those 2 runs. If he can induce a ground ball in the middle infield right here. I've only seen the Tigers turn 1 double play to this point. Instead, he gets Ross to swing over the top on that one. Had the Warhawk shortstop well off balance, way out in front of that one.
Foul.
It's a nice play over there by Wisniewski, nonetheless.
Throw down to second. And it's going to be an unconventional double play. The strike him out, throw him out Conti needed that in a big way. The Tigers escape out of a jam. They still hold on to this lead 4-2. They'll be back to the plate here for the bottom half of the inning when we return. Bottom half of the fourth inning, and Fang still out there dealing for the Warhawks now, as that lead that he gave up has been shortened to just a 2-run lead for the Tigers. And we'll see what Harris can do here, as looks like Norton may have caught some dirt in the eye. Harris will put that one into the air and take it over at second by Volmhoff. Just popped it straight up, basically. The old home run on a silo.
Yeah, for Harris right there, a really big swing on a pitch that was right there in the middle of the plate. Saw his head turn just a little bit. That front shoulder pulling out of there. Combination of those things ultimately dropping the barrel of that bat and leading to him skying that one high in the infield. Seen the Tigers hit 5 home runs already to this point in the series, but with a lead that had just been cut into, I'd like to see a little bit of a different approach from these hitters coming to the plate, trying to string something together, give Conti some rest after he had a little bit of a stressful inning, but certainly a low enough pitch count for him to continue. But McNaney down on strikes, just 4 pitches right there, and Ant Thang, after giving up those 4 runs in the first 3 innings, has the opportunity to escape the bottom of the 4th here without any damage, keeping this a 2-run ball game. Chance to deliver that elusive shutdown inning after Norton and his big home run over the left field wall cut that lead in half, as you mentioned.
And he's still looking for his first hit here in the 22 campaign. And skied up and foul back behind the plate. And Norton puts that one away. We head to the top of the 5th when we return. Top of the order for Zach Campbell, 0 for 2 on the day. Looking to see if maybe the third time is the charm here against Conti. Flew out to left and then struck out here in game number 2. And he'll be retired once again.
That last pitch, that batted ball in the infield. Nice to see Conti really hustling over there, trying to cover first base if he's needed. Ultimately, he wasn't, but it's the type of intensity and urgency that I think this Tiger pitching staff has really needed, especially when they've been ahead in games. Saw a little bit of complacency last weekend, the Saturday game against Babson. They went way ahead early on, jumping out to an 8-1 lead, but Babson eventually made that a 1-run ball game in the 9th inning, ultimately falling 12-11. But when you jump out to a 7-run lead, you want to try your best to win by 4, 5, 6 runs, especially considering the fact that the Tigers entered that 9th leading by 6. So to allow Babson to claw all the way back into that one and score 5 runs, certainly something the Tigers are going to need to avoid and really shore up as they continue on in this early season and head towards conference play starting later on this month.
Baumhoff 1 for 2. Puts that one out, but foul. Shout out to former Tiger, current Boston College Eagle, Rafe Shamet, on his first career hit in Division I. Boston College leading their game currently 5-0 there in the 6th inning as an RBI single with 2 outs. His first hit, first RBI, as Baumhoff is retired for the 2nd out. Jacob Meyer stepping in, and great to see Rafe with some success in his graduate year. That one's going to stay in play. But a very tough play to make for Wisniewski and unable to do so.
Yeah, and we've seen the baseball hit in that general vicinity a couple of times in this series. See that one well in on the hands. Way out ahead of that one was DeMeyer. Wisniewski, opportunity to come away with a couple of outs down that left field line. Unable to do so on the weekend. I think the wind and the conditions here in San Antonio have played a part, but I know, Josh, you mentioned on the broadcast yesterday, the foul area here in San Antonio going to be changing a lot and getting a lot smaller as the Tigers continue to make changes to the field and build this program up. Down that left field line, construction going to begin to make that a larger player development area. Conti set, deals that one in there for a called 3rd strike. Has DeMeyer looking again. 2nd consecutive strikeout. Goes down as Conti's 10th on the day. 2nd time on the season in just 3 starts that he's eclipsed the double-digit strikeout mark. You'll see it again right here. That fastball up and on the outside part of the plate, but catches that corner and had DeMeyer frozen in the box. For Conti, a nice job to settle back in, shut down these Warhawk bats after they were able to grab a couple of runs in the last inning. Conti preserves a 2-run lead here in the middle of the 5th. We'll have the bottom when we return. As we return here in San Antonio, Jack Wisniewski will lead things off for the Tigers. He sends that one down the line in left field. That one will be well to the left of that left field foul line. Wisniewski will venture back to the batter's box. Wisniewski 0 for 2 on the day. Did reach on a throwing error back in the first inning. Looking to get his first hit of this contest. He went 1 for 3 and walked twice in the Tigers' 7-3 loss earlier on. Next pitch he sees, he turns and delivers into the gap out there in left center field. Campbell will range over to get that one back in quickly, but not before Wisniewski makes his way into second base. There's a leadoff double here for the Tigers as they try and provide Samuel Conti with a little bit of a cushion. You'll see this pitch here again. A little bit of tail to the outside part of the plate. Wisniewski has no problem with it at all. Takes that one to the opposite field. Peers on into his dugout to give his teammates some encouragement as Ezra Gore steps into the box, squaring around to bunt. That one will end up foul. For Gore, he steps into the box now after reaching on a fielder's choice back in the first inning. He followed that up with a single. That ball that was chopped well into the air. Anfang bouncing off the mound to glove that one, but it left first base unoccupied. And Gore's speed had him reach on what was ultimately ruled an infield single. Now Gore quickly down 0-2 after that bunt attempt went foul, swinging over that next pitch, but he'll see that ball well off the plate and in the dirt. As we see that pitch again, not particularly close to the zone. Easy for Ezra to lay off that one. Ezra really putting the pressure on the defense right there with his speed. Saw him just reach the bat out and poke that one to Rost out there at shortstop, but the shortstop sped up a little bit with Ezra Gore's presence on the base path. Overthrows his first baseman right there. You'll see that pitch, again, not a bad location, but Ezra Gore doing everything he can to ensure that at the very least he moves Wisniewski over from second to third base, but even better for the Tigers, they'll trade spots. And the Tigers will balloon that lead back to 3 runs, looking to add on it here in the bottom of the 5th with MJ Metz standing in the box, having doubled his last time up. That's 1 for 1 on the day. Walked back in the first inning, ultimately coming around to score a run. Now he's got the opportunity to drive Gore in, but he'll have some work to do here as he trails in this at-bat 0-2. Anfang, nice response after defense in the infield unable to help him out. Jumping well ahead of Metz, 0-2 right there, and delivering a pitch. It's not particularly close to the zone, still forcing Metz to fight it off. Count remains at 0-2. Anfang will turn and check on Gore over there at third. Although, don't figure Gore will be on the move right here with 0 outs in the inning. Always a possibility with this coaching staff to send their men on the base paths when you least expect it. Metz steps back in, and Fang comes set. The 1-2 delivery is sent out into center field. Campbell right there camping out under it. Gore threatened to tag. Ultimately, that one not deep enough to advance the runner. So Gore will remain at second base as we see the replay right here. Nice pitch by Anfang. Something that I think he tried to do earlier on in this game. Seeing another two-seam fastball that stayed over the middle of the plate. That one started a little bit further outside and came back just to get enough, or would have gotten just enough of that outside corner to strike Metz out, forcing him to swing the bat. But he turns around. First pitch to Vonderhaar runs in to get the legs of the left-handed outfielder. So the Tigers will now have two aboard here. See the replay right here. That one coming in and getting the back knee of Vonderhaar. The painful spot, one of the worst to get hit in the batter's box, but a good job right there, taking one for the team, understanding that he's going to reach base. But with that, you'll see Anfang exit the ball game. His replacement will be number 17 for the Warhawks. That's Nick Rector. 6-foot sophomore right-hander will come into a little bit of a jam here against the Tigers, who have runners on first and second, and just one out in the bottom of the fifth. Watch him warm up, and we'll be right back when the action resumes.
Number 42, Brian Shaw.
You get a good look at Nick Rector, making his first appearance on the campaign. Not an easy situation to walk into. Ryan Schaub, who hit 2 home runs a night ago. One that I'm sure still is up in orbit. Just absolutely crushed one to left center field. Hit a tree and came back into the field of play. Tied the game at 7 a night ago. That one up and in, called strike. Seen some calls that we would question, but nice little breaking ball action from Rector, and get the call, and it's now 1-1.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with that pitch is it's really the first time in this game that we've seen it called a strike. Helps out a guy a ton that came in and would have been behind 0-2. Probably would have forced him to throw a fastball, but instead of a 1-1 count, he's allowed to turn around and throw another breaking ball that drops in there, and all of a sudden Schaub finds himself behind 1-2.
I will say, I mean, we are kind of blocked by the umpire standing in front there. And comes back, gets the strikeout, so now 2 down, and job by Rector coming in. Bringing the water to extinguish the flames that were starting to get going here for Trinity.
Yeah, and we had some questions about that last breaking ball that was called a strike, had Brian Schaub looking, but nothing to question about that fastball. Incredibly impressive to come into the game and pump one by Brian Schaub, who we're so used to seeing him barrel up those fastballs and deposit them over the outfield wall.
Brings up Christian Holloway over 2 on the evening, 280 on the year. And the sophomore out of Brownsville. Stepping in with an opportunity to make something happen. He's, I won't say struggled a bit. He's been able to put the ball into play, but I'm sure Tiger fans would love to see him barrel something a little bit harder. And that one's going to be a little hard off the helmet. That will load the bases, so Tiger fans will wait to see if Holloway will get a chance. We're going to see a replay here of Holloway just being able to duck out of the way. Almost takes that off the neck. So very fortunate that one hit off the hard plastic. And that will bring to the plate with the bases loaded and 2 down, Harris. Colt stepping in 1 for 2 on the afternoon. Hitting at a 1 for 4 clip on the year. 2 RBI and 4 runs scored. The sophomore out of Houston, or just outside of Houston in Katy. First pitch for a ball.
Colt steps in after that hit by pitch that got Holloway on the back, as you mentioned. That comes after Brian Schaub struck out on a little bit of an odd sequencing of pitch location. If you're Harris stepping in right now, I like the approach, taking a couple of pitches, now a 3rd consecutive one to put yourself way ahead in this at-bat 3-0. Obviously, it's a scenario in which you come up with the bases loaded and the opportunity to really break a game wide open. But if you're not going to get anything close to the zone, there's no reason to swing the bat. Have the chance to get on base and drive a run in, even if it's a walk. Give the opportunity to the teammate behind you. Today, Matt McNaney, to drive in and do some even more damage. That's exactly what Harris will do right there. That 4th pitch, not anywhere close to the zone, almost getting away from Norton behind the plate. That'll drive a run in for the Tigers. McNaney certainly going to have a similar approach after ball hit Holloway to put him on base. Harris saw 4 straight out of the zone for the 9-hole hitter for the Tigers. Great opportunity to turn the lineup over and really break this game wide open.
Looking to match his counterpart, who sent a 2-run shot over the fence back in the 4th inning for Whitewater. Tigers have responded, getting 2 here in bottom of the 5th so far. 2 runs, 2 hits, 5 errors, 4 left on for the Warhawks. 6 runs, 6 hits, an error, and 3 left on, and that one over to 3rd, and a hot shot and a great job by Matt Corman to step on the bag, and that'll take us to the 6th. And we'll be back for that in just a bit.
Tigers score 2 runs on 1 hit. 1 error, 3 left out. Off for the Warhawks. Third baseman number 19, Max Foreman.
Top of the 6th, and well, why wouldn't he be out there? Sam Conti back out. 80 pitches so far, 10 strikeouts. And he deals to Corman, who helped shut the Tigers down. Fine defensive play, keeping the ball in front of him and then touching the bag to end the bottom half of the 5th and the threat. Corman 0 for 2 on the day.
Now make that 0 for 3. As Corman goes down on strikes, adding to Conti's strikeout total. That gives him 11. For Conti, that matches his season high. Second time that he's reached double-digit strikeouts. Go back to that first appearance on the season against Washington U, where he went 6 innings pitched, giving up 5 runs, 2 earned. Had 11 strikeouts in that one, same as he has today. Only 2 walks back then, but he has an opportunity to continue to improve on his numbers here tonight. That last delivery being his 85th pitch of the evening. Going down 1-0 in this count. Comes back to jump ahead in front of Rupp now right there, making it 1-2 and putting himself in position for yet another K.
Conti firing at almost a 2 Ks per inning clip. I believe that's the most for a single Tiger pitcher so far here in 2022. Rupp now through the right side. It's going to be Harris making the play. And a fine play in shallow right for the Tigers' second baseman.
Yeah, not another strikeout for Conti, but I don't think he'll have any qualms with this result. Nice pitch up in the zone that ultimately jammed Rutt now a little bit. Tried to muscle that one past Harris into right field, but rangy Tiger second baseman, able to get himself all the way around that one, deliver that ball on to Metz at first base. So for Conti here, quickly 2 down in the top of the 6th. He continues to work quickly.
Skolin 0 for 1 on the day, but he did walk back in the 4th and was aboard. That's the man on deck in the back of your screen there. But the only 2 runs of the evening out for Whitewater with a 2-run shot. So Skolin trying to keep the inning alive, get it to their hottest hitter here through 3 games. Conte now into the 91 on the pitch count. And the 2-1 pitch. Not going to get the call low and away. And Skolin doing the job of whatever it's going to take to keep the inning alive. That one looked like it was more up, but also looked like it was more outside. Conte gets the call.
And I think at least one of those last 2 pitches certainly has to go for a strike. I'm not sure that's the one I would have called as home plate umpire, but
it all evens out at the end.
Yeah, exactly. Conti continues to fight, coming back to push this at bat to full. Ultimately loses him right there with that ball in the dirt.
Yeah, so another walk for Skolin, and that brings up Ryan Norton. 1 for 2, the big one. The home run, you see the OPS, you see the average. It's pretty much loving this field here. Loves the opposition of the Trinity pitching staff. 7 for 13 on the year. You take strike 1 here from Conti.
And clearly off to a great start, Josh, and not going to say that you were a jinx before last night's game, but I do recall you saying while we were off air that Norton, of the returning players that had some 100-plus at-bats, he was the black sheep. That average only at 290, still an incredibly impressive mark.
Yeah, and the only reason why I say that is because everybody else was 40 points higher. 290 is not a bad season at all. The rest of your teammates are all 331 and above. He's come out hot here in this campaign, and keep it going as that one shot into right field. That'll be another single. 8 for 14 for Ryan Norton. And 97 pitches. Going to see how long of a leash they're going to give Conte. I know that the staff would love for him to at least get through 6 as Nick Paget steps in. Officially 0 for 0 on the evening. With a 4-run lead, I think he's got maybe a little bit longer leash than we might sometimes see, but
I'd certainly agree with you that being the second hit of the evening for Norton, the only Warhawk to accomplish that task, only one other hit in that column on the night. So for Conti, doesn't seem like things have slowed for him at all. The velo looks similar. The command looks similar to what it was earlier on in this one. Just great start to the year for Norton, no matter who's been on the mound in a Trinity uniform.
Yeah, this easily the best pitching performance we've seen from any of the Tigers so far. He's had the one pitch to Norton that Norton took out of the park. Maybe the 2 walks against Skolin. You could say, maybe you don't want to walk the guy in front of the hottest hitter. But at the same time, that one's going to be lifted into right center. Gore drifting over, not going to get it. Off the base of the wall. Gore will send it around. Norton will come around home and score easily. 2 RBI for Paget. Nick Paget now 1 for 1 on the day. And once again, a 4-run Tiger lead cut by 2. And the Tigers now lead 6-4. That'll bring up Daryl Jackson. we've talked about possibly that not being Jackson. I think looking at him in his last at bat, when I look just at the headshots, they look differently, or they look completely different. But I think that is Jackson, number 3, and we might even get a substitution here now for Jackson before he can come back up for his 3rd time. He was 0 for 2. Just awaiting the pinch hitter. See the line score there. 4 hits on the day, and 2 of them come in the last 2 batters. Just as I say, it was the best pitching performance by a Tiger here through 9 games. Conte's number line starting to get a little roughed up, but I think if you look at it not from the box score, but if you just look at the approaches that he's had, I would still say this is easily the best performance that we've seen. And stepping in will be number 4, David Rubin. Rubin, who saw action last night, batting .333. Scored 3 runs so far. Trinity's going to make the change here, going lefty to righty. And it'll be Shavana when we return. We'll get caught up with him in just a bit. All right, so stats probably not loaded incorrectly for Shavano on the year, but he is making his 4th appearance. He is 2-0 with a save, 10.2 innings pitched, ERA 2.53, got 10 strikeouts in those 10 innings. David Rubin, as we mentioned, batting .333, runner at second, 2 down, 2-run game. First pitch was in for a strike. That one fouled off. It would be 0-2.
And a good job from Shavana coming into this game, throwing strikes pretty much immediately. Way ahead in the count, 0-2. Can go to anything that he wants right here. Talked about Jack Martinez, who did the same for the Tigers in the first game of the series last night. That one in the dirt. Gets a little bit away from McNaney, who struggled to find it. That's really what ultimately allowed Paget to move on over to third base and give the Warhawks the opportunity to cut their lead in half again. Just 90 feet standing between him and coming across home plate. Shavana winds and deals, dropping that one in there, and it's lifted out into right field. But Brian Schaub will camp underneath it out there and limit the damage for the Tigers. So Shavana comes into this one, retires the only batter he faces, and keeps the Tiger 2-run lead intact as we head to the bottom of the 6th.
after a strong outing back in the 5th inning. Nick Rector back out there for the 6th. And to lead it off for the Tigers will be back to the top of the order. Tanner Haney 0 for 3 on the day, looking to get things going. Trinity holding back to a 2-0 lead, or a 2-run lead. Seems like they keep pushing it to 4, and then Whitewater keeps crawling back. Now, many of the Warhawk fans tuning in are hoping for maybe a little bit of sweet revenge after last night's walk-off. Game that they had the lead going into the bottom half of the 9th inning. And a pair of home runs, putting the Tigers into the victory column. Warhawks did get the victory this afternoon, 7-3. Moving our colleague Brian Yanselson to 0-3 on the season when he calls games here for the Tigers. So hoping I can step in and make it 3-0 for the Tigers. Much to Brian's chagrin, but still a long way to go in this one. And I say that because not just because we've hit the 2-hour mark of this game, but this is about where last night everybody really started to say, like, hey, let's get the bats going. Let's have some long innings. Let's score 4 to 5 runs and be here for a while. So we'll see if we get similar tonight, as that one's in foul territory and almost making the play, and it would have been a fantastic play. I believe that was the first baseman, Rupnow. It could have been the second baseman, Vomhoff. Luke confirming that it was Carson Rupnow. And that is some range. You know, we're looking at it on a replay here. Take this real quick and you can see it. There's just fantastic range here.
Yeah, does a nice job of turning and just sprinting straight towards that baseball, but incredibly difficult to have his back completely turned right there. But for Rector on the mound, does a spectacular job to come back, all the way back from down 3-0 and punch out Tanner Haney right there. Catches him looking at that pitch on the outside part of the plate that ultimately caught just enough to send Haney back to the dugout down on strikes. And continues Haney's rough start to the year after that last at-bat. He drops to 0 for 4 on the night. Came into this one 0 for 10 on the year. So looking to get going for the Tigers as they continue to try out their different options over there at shortstop. Any defensive replacement after the Tigers had some difficulties in the first of the doubleheader, and he's shored up some things over there to this point in the game, but Tigers shortstop still really yet to get the bats going consistently. Wisniewski just stepped into the box. Second hitter of the inning, ground that one to the right side. Warhawks able to record the second out in the bottom of the 6th.
We've seen a couple of guys with some pretty open stances, and you see the nice closed stance here from Gore. Looking to make this a quick 6th. That one floats outside. Make it 3-0 now. Gore in the driver's seat on this at bat can just sit fastball and wait for the pitch he wants. At least for the next 2. See if he can pick one out. Called strike, up and away.
And after 3 pitches that weren't particularly close to the zone, see if that one strike is enough for Gore to pick up the bat right here.
Instead, it misses inside, and now Tigers with the base runner into the heart of their order, the cleanup spot. MJ Metz, 452 on the year, very similar to Ryan Norton. Kind of been the go-to guy here for the Tigers all season long. You see the 13 runs, 7 RBI, 2 home runs. One of them coming this afternoon. Positing that into left center in game 1. It wasn't enough for Trinity. Now it's fouled off.
Yeah, incredibly impressive numbers out of Metz to start this season, especially when you consider the guys that he's seen on the mound. First game of the season coming against Lynchburg, and a pitcher, or a regional pitcher of the year last year. Yesterday's game, Mir receiving similar honors in the Midwest. Metz hasn't had any issues with anybody that he's faced as Gore takes off on that second pitch. He's in there ahead of that throw. Looked like that one was dropped over there at second base by Vomhoff. Not sure it would have mattered either way. See the replay right here. Another strong throw.
Yeah, Gore sliding in, feet first, well ahead of the throw. Vomhoff at that point just making sure Gore didn't get an extra 90. And that's the 1-2 count. Not a bad pitch from Rector. Left it up, maybe get somebody who's 6'6" to take a hack at something up. Let's see if he comes back down low. No, he goes way inside. Gore will take off to third, and ball bouncing all around. Would hope that maybe Trinity's kind of learned their lesson on running from third to home here in this series. It just has not worked out well for them.
You're absolutely right about that. Saw it in last night's game when Gore tried to take home. The ball didn't get far enough away from Norton behind home plate. Same thing happened in the first of today's action. Norton able to get enough of his glove on what was a pass ball, but not a pass ball, all the way to the outfield. As Rector catches Metz looking right there. Metz not happy with that call, as many of the Tiger hitters haven't been.
Not happy, but it's been pretty consistent.
Yeah, that breaking ball in the inner half of the plate has been called a strike the entire day. We've seen it for both sides, really.
That takes us to the top of the 7th. Tigers clinging to that 2-run lead. It'll be Shavana back out there for more work when we return.
Leading off the Warhawks, number 1, Zach Campbell.
Back to the top of the order, Zach Campbell stepping in, looking for his first hit this evening. I'll call time. See the numbers for the leadoff man, all 3 games here. Junior out of Burlington, Wisconsin, looking to get the season turned around early on. And And that's ripped into center field. Gore makes easy work of it. Shavana's got one down. And Campbell struggles continue. Looking if they bat around, he's going to need some help from his lineup to get another one tonight. Otherwise, he'll be due up first tomorrow when the teams hit the diamond, 11 a.m. And unfortunately for those at home, the best way to follow that one's probably going to be on social media, trying to check into the Instagram and Twitter accounts for the universities to see what's going on and follow live stats. That one taking place over at Wolf Stadium, and kind of beginning the minor league ballpark trek here for Wisconsin-Whitewater. I know you and Brian Luke mentioned it earlier that Whitewater headed off to Pensacola, and the home of the Blue Wahoos. Absolutely gorgeous facility out there, and the old stomping grounds of former Tiger Network announcer Chris Garagiola, who's moved on to the Arizona Diamondbacks. And I'll tell you, that's my one big hope that we get the Major League season underway, is because I'd love to be able to hear Chris on some calls for the Diamondbacks this season. Jacob DeMeyer 0 for 2 so far today. Shavana just making quick work of everything. Breaking ball on the outside part of the plate for strike one after Vomhoff retired.
And we talked a little bit about Shavana in the year that he's had to this point, making his fourth appearance in this one. That one sent through the left side. Monderhar and get it back in handy at shortstop. The Warhawks do have a runner on here in the top of the 7th inning, but Shavana did make quick work of the first two batters. But returning to Shavana and what he's accomplished on the short season. Talked about those 10 2/3 that he's thrown already. The majority of that work coming last weekend at home against Babson. He ultimately earned the win. He went 6 1/3. By far the longest outing of this season for him. He gave up 3 earned on the day, striking out 4, but he had a lot of room to work with. I mentioned that big 7-run lead that the Tigers jumped out to early on. Came into a little bit of a jam, but did a good job of filling a long gap and making sure that the Tigers didn't use up as many arms from the bullpen as they needed to in the second game of that series.
Shavana will check over at first a couple of times here. She get a good look at Corman. Almost made an unbelievable play. Whitewater defense, last year they had a Sports Center top 10 moment with DeMeyer and had a fantastic diving catch out by Zach Campbell earlier today. Corman almost covering from first base, making a play in what I would really term right field, showing the range that we saw maybe from a year ago when Padres had a shift on and third baseman Manny Machado made a play in the right field wall. Shavana now looking for one last strike to get out of the inning. Breaking ball, hung up. That one lifted, right field line. Schaub making a run for it and will not come up with it. So we'll take a look at that one again. I didn't see exactly how he played this. See, Corman thought he had lifted it, maybe even foul, or just popped it up. And then I'm just wondering if Schaub just didn't have a beat on it, because unless he was ranging really far over from right center, should have been one that he was able to track. But we'll say the lights here are not ideal. We've seen Whitewater get caught up with a few last night. Trinity caught up with a few last night. The ball, once it gets into the lights, is just absolutely brutal. And they're not particularly high, which I think is more of a detriment, because kind of gets right into that line of sight that you would be looking for, like right at the last moment.
And already this weekend, we've seen the conditions here in San Antonio play a part, have an impact on the outfielders. Specifically, last night, a couple of balls dropping into the outfield in between some hitters from Whitewater. That one is tagged to left field, but just out in front of it was Corman. Vonderhaar will remain right where he's at to record the final out here in the top of the 7th inning. So for the Tigers, they maintain what I believe is a 1-run lead at this point in the ball game.
Yep, there it is, 6-5, and that's the score here at stretch time. So Corman with the RBI. Well, I guess we'll have to even check if it's an RBI that was given an error on the at-bat. So we'll check that on the stats when we return and be back here on the Tiger Network in just a bit. Vonderhaar, Schaub, and Holloway due up here for the Tigers in the bottom of the 7th. And 1-for-1 on the day, Jack Vonderhaar. Rector will settle in and deal. That one missing low for ball 1.
Rector coming into this one and having a really nice showing. His first appearance of the year. Walked a couple of batters, but so far in an inning and 2/3, he's yet to give up a hit to the Tiger order. So that number in the score line has stalled at 6 for Trinity. Vonderhaar looking to break that. A little bit of a slump in the Tiger batting order. He swings through that. Rector blows that fastball by the left-handed hitter, making the count 2-1. After falling behind 2-0, a couple of nice pitches from Rector right there. The first in on the hands by to Vonderhaar. Lefty not able to pull his hands through in time to put the barrel on that pitch, and Rector comes back at him over the heart of the plate. Vonderhaar fouling that last offering back towards the backstop.
Norton will give chase, but come up empty as that one's cleared out. I think this series for Vonderhaar has gone particularly well. Just looking at his approach to the plate, it kind of feels like maybe the Vonderhaar we saw last year is kind of back. Looks a little bit more confident up there. He's staying back on pitches. Doesn't seem to be as, I was about to say confused at the plate on pitches like that, as he had been doing a very good job. And the breaking ball here from Rector, catching Vonderhaar off guard for the strikeout. As you mentioned, Rector just coming in and exactly what the Warhawks needed. 4th strikeout so far. And one of those that is part of that 4. Brian Schaub stepping in, now 1 for 3 on the day.
And that last at bat. Schaub, one of the first Tigers to face Rector, one of the first Tigers to be a little bit dissatisfied with that strike call on one of those inside breaking balls. Sure, he'd like to avenge that last effort right here and help his teammates out.
Nicely ahead 2-0. Rector was able to get the breaking ball called for a strike against Schaub in that first at bat and kind of put him ahead in the count, 1-2, and he was able to take the strikeout from there. But now Schaub in control of this at bat, 2-0 count.
Schaub doing a nice job again there on laying off the breaking ball that started down in the zone. More often than not, when we see those balls end up in the dirt, we see that Brian Schaub hasn't even lifted the bat off of his shoulder. So now it has him well ahead in this count, 3-0. An opportunity to give the Tigers a first base runner here, and that's exactly what will happen. Brian Schaub will take the free pass. Seems like it's been forever since we've uttered those words. Got so used to calling Brian Schaub walks in the 2021 campaign, and is off to a great start in the same statistical category this year, but haven't seen him been offered a whole lot of free passes to start this weekend.
43 a year ago, and kind of jumped out early. He was doing so much. His on-base percentage was just ridiculous. It was almost up now 800 last year. Holloway with a runner on now, 1 down. I'm going to see if maybe he can find some green grass out in the outfield. Maybe help give Trinity a little bit more breathing room, especially for Shavana as he comes back out. I'm assuming for the top of the 8th. Imagine that Tiger coaching staff has plans for him to close it out. This one rolled up to the middle, and this one's going to get through. So Holloway, who's had quite a few of those, just kind of sent back up the middle. A couple of those have gone for double plays, but that one will have eyes and make it towards the outfield. And now 2 aboard here for the Tigers. A walk and a base hit.
Yeah, and all along you've really had to like and admire the approach that Holloway has brought to the plate with him. He's tried really hard to go back up the middle with pretty much everything that he's seen at the plate, but you're right, in some previous at-bats, especially here today, he struggled to get the barrel entirely on the baseball, but he got more of it there, sent that one through the infield.
He's 1 for 2. Single, a run scored back in the 2nd. Looking for an RBI. Let's say a base hit will do it, but a well-placed base hit might be enough to score Schaub from 2nd. Again, I just question whether or not Trinity is going to be very aggressive sending a runner from 3rd to home. They have found their way out at the plate quite a few times this series so far.
And just some tough reads, frankly, when the Tigers have managed to get runners over there to 3rd base. We've seen it really the last 2 weekends. Some odd plays, including one last weekend where a ball that the catcher in Babson College blocked, made its way almost all the way back to the pitcher, allowing him to throw it home and record the out there. I mentioned earlier a play where the ball nicked off the catcher's glove and didn't make it all the way to the backstop, really dying on that maroon cutout around the home plate dirt. You can see from some different angles. Because of it, the catcher was able to get the ball back over to his pitcher and record an out at home plate.
Shot back up the middle. Nice fielding play from Rector. And they're going to turn 2. Fantastically done. by the Warhawks. Rector sends it over. I believe that's 163 on the double play. I'll take a look at it once again. You can understand the Warhawks excited about that. Yeah, 163. Well turned. Harris sprinting down the line. Just couldn't beat that out. That'll send us to the 8th. Tigers up 1. Warhawks 6, 7, 8 hitters due up. Skolin, Norton, and Paget when we return. First pitch swing, first pitch fouling it off. Skolin 0 for 1 on the day. Matt looking to get a board. He's done it twice via walks. Came around, scored twice. Don't always have to be up there clutch hits or anything else. The name of the game is to get yourself a board. He's done that twice. His teammates behind him have brought him around. Look, you and I talking about that double play. Just unbelievable how well Whitewater pulled that one off. Had Rector falling off the mound as he fielded that. And then Bennett Frazier, who has come in at shortstop, with the heads-up play to make the coverage. I think that if Vomhoff tries to make the play on that and go take that at second, you're not going to catch Colt Harris and his speed running down the line, throwing against your body, trying to make that out. But Frazier able to take it in stride and make a strong throw. And Skolin is down for the second time today. Bring up Norton. Just that was an elite level defensive play there for the Warhawks.
Yeah, so many different parts that you pointed to right there. Think about all those things. In addition to that, to begin the play, as Rector was trying to field his position, looked like he slipped a little bit out there, but still had the presence of mind to collect himself. Made a really accurate throw over there to second base. As you mentioned, shortstop in Jackson covering. So many things having to go right there, and when it didn't appear like they would to begin that play, they ultimately ended exactly the way the Warhawks needed it to.
I think Shavano may have gotten that call, and he did. Strike 2. Norton 2 for 3. Looking to get something started here in the inning. Sends that one long but foul. Already a home run on his resume for the evening. Looking to be the second man to go deep twice in a game this series. That one low and away. Good pitch from Shavana. It wasn't a strike. Probably for the best. Now that one will be. It was a good chase pitch the pitch before, and Norton did a great job of laying off of it. And then Shavana said, I'll just put this one right into the zone, and if you choose not to swing, you can go have a seat. And that'll bring up Nick Paget.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened right there. great shot from this angle of Norton walking straight back to the dugout. Had absolutely no argument for the umpire about that. He's obviously the catching counterpart. He's had his fair share of calls on the inside part of the plate right there, and as soon as that one hit McNaney's glove behind the plate for the Tigers, Norton knew.
Paget 2 walks and an 2 RBI double. That one in his last at bat, but he's up here now with the bases empty, needing to get something going for the Warhawks as they are now down to their final 4 outs, chasing a run. The series has given us everything we had hoped for. The guys over at D3 Baseball Podcast were excited for this one, and quite a few really good games on tap this weekend. Hopkins, the good series. A couple of good games out there. Adrian, a couple of ranked games for themselves. A couple of other ranked games in the top 25 of the D3Baseball.com poll. And we're excited about this one, and I think it's lived up to its potential. I think the only thing I would really complain about is just both teams just struggling with some of the errors. And I think it's indicative of maybe early March baseball, particularly maybe for Whitewater, as this is the first time they've been out on the diamond, really able to see live baseball the way that we're accustomed to in a pretty long time. So, they're going to get their feet underneath themselves and be ready to go, as Shavana just lighting it up here in the inning. Another strikeout. That'll take us to the bottom half of the 8th. And you can hear the PA. 3 up, 3 down. And we'll be back in just a bit. Bottom of the 8th inning here for Trinity, and pinch hitting for McNaney is going to be Ty Preston. Preston on the season with an RBI. And that pitch coming in for a strike. Rector back out again. So he approaches 50 pitches on the evening. And that should be a called strike. Looked like he went around. They're going to check down at first. And the umpire down at first says no, so it'll be a 1-1 count. I think, at least I think the umpire put up a 1-1, so we'll see on this pitch. So now that should be 2-1. Yeah, 2-1. I thought maybe Preston had gone around on that one, but nonetheless, 2-1 on the count. No, 1-2.
Yeah, I'm going to pose you right there. umpire behind the plate. One of the more confusing things, I think, that he gives the ball and strike count from his own perspective. So us looking straight on, seeing the 1 strike on the left and 2 strikes on the right from.
Well, right after the call was made, and I could be completely wrong, it looked like he put up 1-1, but we'll go with it. 1-2. Chopper. Over to Frazier. Comes up throwing in a unbelievable stretch from Carson Rupp now. When we've talked about Whitewater's defense here, yeah, they've got 5 errors on the day, but they are making elite plays. And this is just fantastic from the first baseman. He showed his athleticism earlier, tracking down a ball and almost getting to it out in right field. I'm not even going to call it shallow right. That was right field, foul territory. And then with the stretch there, Tanner Haney 0 for 4 checking in. 1 down here in the 8th.
Almost makes you wonder what alternative methods the Warhawks are using. You mentioned a really great stretch over there. Possibly some yoga happening up north.
I need to find out for myself. I could get a little more limber, not have this aching back all the time. But it is a joy to see some of this too.
Absolutely, and you mentioned this the defense that this infield specifically has put on display so far this weekend. It really has been elite level. I think we especially became cognizant of it in that last inning, that double play that got turned. That last one, Frazier out there at shortstop made it look really, really easy, charging in and making that throw on the run. It certainly wasn't as easy as he made it seem. Most of the defensive struggles for the Warhawks have been in the outfield. We've already talked about it, and there's valid reasoning for that. The fact that they haven't had the opportunity to see real fly balls off the bat outside. This being their opening weekend on the season, I'm sure that's something that's quickly going to be shored up, especially with that week that you alluded to that they'll spend playing in Pensacola in the Blue Wahoo Stadium.
Haney a bit late on the Richter fastball that evens or runs the count full. 3-2 now. Chopped out. And I believe, is it Rhodes that they play next on that schedule?
I do believe that it's Rhodes that they have a couple of times when they venture down to Pensacola. Play a couple of opponents twice. Be against Rhodes to start it on Wednesday and Thursday, followed by Carroll, Center, Grinnell. The Division II powerhouse, West Florida, will get Grinnell a second time.
Yeah, that West Florida game, I think, is going to be an interesting one to see. Mentioned that's a team that's usually doing really well. See how they compare against the Warhawks. I know some people kind of making notice of, the first regular season poll came out for D3Baseball.com poll. And Warhawks still listed at 6 where they were on the preseason spot, but some people saying, well, they haven't played any. That one laced into right field. That'll get down. Haney almost making the turn. Now he's got to scramble back and gets in just ahead of the throw. He came in as DeMeyer kind of bobbled it around just a little bit and then got it back underneath them. And as we've seen him do, throw back against a runner at first a couple of times in the first game, and does it here, almost catching Haney a little bit in no man's land. You see him look like he bobbled it briefly, able to get it back and strong throw back in.
Yeah, I think that throw, the first throw from DeMeyer out there in right field went into Vomhoff at second base, so maybe not entirely cognizant of the turn that Haney took. You have to imagine that if he had gone back to Rupp now over there at first. They might have had a chance to record that second out. But either way, got to be happy with the result for Tanner Haney right there. Finds his first hit of the year. Certainly not the first hard hit ball that we've seen out of him. As Wisniewski sends that one on the ground to short. Warhawks again, even with the double clutch over there at second base, able to turn two and send this one into the top of the ninth inning.
Yeah, and before Haney's hit, I was talking about, a couple of people maybe making notice that team that hadn't played still holding on to a top 10 ranking with a bunch of teams already having played and a couple of teams posting up some double-digit wins, not getting the same love. But I think Whitewater's come out and you see second double play in a row to end an inning. And it's the type of team that you see them in the top 10 year in and year out, and then you get to regional time in May, and hey, they're there every single year, it seems like, and they're showing us why. We head to the top of the ninth. Shavana looking to close it out. And we'll see if he's got 3 more outs in him or if Whitewater's got anything left in the bats when we return. We've seen Frazier's defensive play. Now we get to see him at the plate. Came in as a defensive replacement. Speaking of defensive replacements, behind the plate, see a good look at him there. Tyler Pettit coming back in, and Chopper, third base. Wisniewski fires. It's going to be safe. Mets might have come off the bag. I think we'll see another look at it and see if we can figure out what happened. He dropped it. Tying run is aboard. See a nice chopper. Wisniewski, good field on that one. Kind of maybe short hopped it into Metz, who couldn't quite hold on to it. It didn't get away from him, but it was enough.
Yeah, that one kind of just caught Metz in between over there at first base. I think he expected to have to pick that one as Campbell squares around, trying to lay down the bunt. Tiger defense certainly going to need to be cognizant of Campbell's speed. Saw him take a bag in the game earlier today. He's this team's leader in the statistical category last season, finishing the year with 12. Right now for Shavana and the Tigers, important to get the out wherever it might come on the base paths.
Last play for Frazier being given a base hit, saying that maybe he would have had it regardless of the drop. Now Campbell 0 for 4 tonight, 1 for 6 in the night game yesterday. But all he needs to do is a job, move the runner over in scoring position, see if he can at least push Trinity into another walk-off situation where they have to bat in the bottom of the ninth. Whitewater needs 1 to tie, 2 to take a lead, and then see if they've got a closer to come shut the door. Tigers will be 3, 4, 5. Gore, Metz, and Vonderhaar if they need it. Right now we're back to the top of the order for the Warhawks. Vomhoff on deck, followed by DeMeyer, who's hitting in the 3-hole.
For the Tigers, though, defensive change behind home plate as Tyler Pettit returns to the game. That pitch missing just outside. Also important to note, Campbell not squaring around to bunt on that last offering. Count moves to 2-1. We'll see if he'll be allowed to swing the bat with the green light right here, if we'll go back to squaring.
Having watched Trinity for years, it seems like anytime somebody goes up there and just shows bunt in a situation where you should probably take the out for the runner advancing. Can't say how many times we've seen the pitchers just not able to throw strikes, and then you end up giving them first and second. That one ripped right field. It'll get down. And it is first and second now for the Warhawks. Shavana Giving up back-to-back base hits here. And the first of the evening for Zach Campbell. And that will take us to Vomhoff, 1 for 3 on the day.
Yeah, just a nice piece of hitting from Campbell right there. Unfortunate that Shavana fell behind in that at-bat. Forced him in a situation where he had to throw something over the heart of the plate. On top of that, had really lost that release point seemingly. So he went to that breaking ball, trying to find it again. Looked like he was able to do so. So you can hope here as the inning continues that he'll be operating in the strike zone once again. He'll certainly need some help from the middle infield, something the Tigers haven't gotten yet this weekend. The perfect time for a double play, but on top of that, we need to get one more out here in order to preserve this one-run lead.
Vomhoff 1 for 3. Lefty checks in against Shavana. He'll show bunt. Fouled off. And I kind of feel like this is a full-out bunt situation for Vomhoff. You really probably want to get those runners over to second and third. Don't want to risk yourself into grounding into a double play. You need that runner at second, Bennett Frazier, to cross home. At least get you square at 6. Fouled off. Now 0-2. That changes it.
Yeah, and a great job from Shavana right there. Perhaps expecting that bunt, as you mentioned. Vomhoff really fully committing to it in this at-bat. Went with the fastball first pitch, and after he got the first pitch strike on the foul ball, going to that curveball, you have to absolutely love that, making it really tough on Vomhoff in the box to bunt that fair. See what happens here, third offering.
Going up and away, and runners will advance. So you do all the work on pitches 1 and 2, and the third pitch gets away. And the bunt that you tried to lay down is basically just as effective, because now a fly ball hit deep enough is going to score Bennett Frazier from third, and a base hit with the speed of Zach Campbell might give you the lead going to the 9th. On the ground, base hit through the right side. That will score 1, and we'll have runners at the corner. Still nobody down. Whitewater kind of showing a little bit of what the Tigers had for them last night. A little late inning, 9th inning action to overcome a deficit, and they have tied it here at 6.
Yeah, obviously missing Brian Janselson on the call tonight will go to one of his favorite sayings that baseball, like many other sports that we broadcast here on Tiger Network, a game of inches. You have to go back to the first batter of the inning. That ball batted to the left side of the infield that Wisniewski was able to field cleanly, but that throw that he made on over to first base wasn't able to be picked cleanly there by MJ Metz. Allowed that first Warhawk hitter of the inning on base safely, and things have snowballed for the Tigers here since. Now they find themselves in a 6-6 ball game with runners on the corners and still nobody out. Coach Dave Smith will exit that visit from the mound. Shavana will remain there, and all of the Tigers who ventured to the bump for that meeting will return to their positions. Again, we say that there are runners on first and third for Whitewater right here. Be interesting to see if they have anything going. That first pitch, no movement on the base path. Shavana able to jump ahead of Jacob DeMeyer, who steps into the box 1 for 3 on the day. He's able to break into the hit column in his last at-bat, singling through the left side.
one lifted. That should be deep enough. Going back at the wall. And the payback for last night might be complete. 3-run bomb here for Jacob DeMeyer. And it is now 9-6, Whitewater on top. Went down and got it, very similar. This is eerily similar to the 9th inning that the Tigers had last night. And that one up off the scoreboard for the 3-run bomb. And now Matt Corman 0 for 4 on the day. I imagine we'll see at this point. I don't know if you really need the action in the bullpen. I think if you keep it to a 1-run game, you've got a better shot of trying to say that you need to bring somebody in a hurry. But now it's a pretty good time for Shavana just to hit reset and just try to focus on the next 3 batters. Nobody on base, and it's kind of like you're starting the inning again. Just the fact that you gave up 4 runs already.
Yeah, I think either way, trying to keep it as close as possible right here. Certainly key for the Tigers, who will at least have the middle of the lineup due up in the bottom of the inning, as they proved last night and have proved over the course of 3 games here in this series. They're more than capable of putting up runs in a hurry. But I think you're absolutely right. Shavana is going to need to keep this one right where it's at. He's done a good job responding this at bat against Corman. Has it even here, 2-2, but really needs to work quickly, try and get his bats back into the batter's box.
The 2-2. Hung, full count. The sounds you hear are only from the first base side, the visiting side for Whitewater. Trinity side, dead quiet at this moment. Strike 3, Corman chases. We got Carson Rupp now. Didn't see a whole lot of action out of the top of the order last night from Campbell, Vomhoff, and DeMeyer. They have shown up in a massive way here tonight. After Bennett Frazier was able to lead off with a single to third base, a little chopper over to Wisniewski that he beat out. Campbell, Vomhoff, and then DeMeyer with the 3-run bomb. Overcoming the 6-5 Trinity lead here to start the inning. Another called strike 1 and 2.
Shavano back on the mound in a hurry right there. Saw him set to deal from the stretch.
Chopper off the hip of Shavana. He comes up throwing, make the play, and they're 2 down. Yeah, whether or not it's just bases being clear or he's just forgotten it and moved on, he's kind of turned the corner here and just looked like the pitcher that was coming into the 9th inning that we had seen for the last inning and a half. Working quickly, finding the strike zone, getting a pitch to be chased. Just kind of had a bad 5-minute set. And that one ripped first base and met. I'm going to say now there's confusion whether or not it's fair or foul. Maybe one called fair, the other called foul. Not exactly sure what's going on. 2 umpires will converge.
Try and see on this replay right there if you saw anything in the box. That was Skolin at bat. Perhaps that one being hit off that front foot. Looked pretty clearly from this angle that that ball stayed inside the first base line. Umpires had their conversation and went back to their respective positions, so they're going to remain with that foul ball call. Head coach Tim Scannell came out to have that conversation with the head coach umpire, or with the home plate umpire, excuse me. We'll see that replay and watch closely that front foot. Just that front side in general, perhaps. Certainly didn't appear to hit off the front foot of Skolin, but maybe caught himself on the leg at some point. Either way, he'll stand back in the box, but he does trail this count 0-2.
He's able to lift that one into the outfield for a single, and not really sure what the call was. That is one of the more confusing things that I've seen. Because it looked like he hit it up high enough. The only going back at it, I didn't look to see if maybe it hit off the apron funny or something, and ground rules come into play. But they will take advantage of that and have another base hit here. Skolin now 1 for 3 on the day, his third trip to the base paths. He scored on his previous 2. Now Ryan Norton 2 for 4 with the home run, stepping in. First pitch outside. Interesting to see Shavana working from the stretch. Doesn't really seem like the same pitcher.
Yeah, looked a lot more comfortable, worked a lot faster from the windup earlier this inning after that home run. Had really settled back into things nicely, and then all of a sudden his rhythm gets disrupted with a little bit of an odd play right there. Looked like he should have been out of the inning, but forced to throw another pitch. He hangs one up in the zone. Skolin takes advantage of it, and things continue here for Whitewater. This is a nice job right there. To Norton, certainly ahead 2-0 in that count. Very likely expecting fastball right down the middle, but Shavana not giving him what he wanted, pulling the string on that breaking ball and getting back into the count.
Somebody popped up, just out of reach of our cameras, just out of reach of fair or playable play. One of the only things I can think that they may have called, the batter may have requested time before he swung off and hit that. And they may have granted that, so. Nonetheless, runner at first, 2-2 count. Shavana trying to get out of this. There it is, swing and a miss. Tigers will bat here in the bottom of the 9th. Came into this inning up 1. They find themselves down 3. Ezra Gore, MJ Metz, and Jack Vonderhaar. And if they're able to do anything, Brian Schaub, the chance to maybe walk it off again for the Tigers. We'll see if Whitewater can come in and slam the door after taking this lead for the first time tonight here in the 9th. So we go to the bottom half and the final frame when we return. Bottom of the ninth here. See, next game here on the broadcast for the Tigers will be March 9th. That's Wednesday against the Sails before the Tigers head off into conference play. The game tomorrow against Whitewater over at Wolf Stadium. Ezra Gore stepping in. And Rector back out there looking for the win. Trying to close it out. Gore 1 for 3 on the day. First pitch, up in the face.
That's something that we saw the pitchers deal with earlier on in the day. Seen it at times here. We'll see this one up and in on Gore. He was able to protect himself, shrug his shoulders just enough to wear that one off the shoulder rather than that head and neck area. We've talked a little bit about the conditions here in San Antonio over the course of the past 2 days. It's been really, really cloudy for the Tigers and the Warhawks, and tonight humidity up at 73%, so perhaps playing an impact on the pitchers and Rector's ability to grip the baseball right now.
Tigers doing what they need to do. They need base runners, and they've got one. And Jay Metz, that's another one they need. Can't really afford to trade runs for outs at this point, down 3. So they just need to get aboard. They've got the men that they need up, Metz, Vonderhaar, and Schaub. They've all homered here this weekend. That one's lifted, now 2-0.
Yeah, in a great position for Metz right here, but I think you're absolutely right. Just need to keep this train moving. Get another runner on base. Hopefully move Gore all the way over to third and then just start to trade spots with some people. Continue to pass the baton around. That one apparently missing up in the zone to Metz. I've already mentioned a couple times the fact that he stands in there at 6'5", and that's...
Yeah, that looked like a strike from here, but you know, Metz will take it. He's had some questionable calls against him that he hasn't appreciated, but you see Rector, who has been pretty stellar since he came aboard. I think at this point you just tell him, hey, you got a 3-run lead. Let's just focus, settle in. You know, you saw what happened to Shavana. Like one bad play kind of spiraled out of control for a few batters, and I think that's what Whitewater's wanting to not have happen.
Yeah, he has been really fantastic on the mound to this point. Almost 4 full innings pitched. Just giving up those 2 hits to the Tigers has really done a great job shutting this offense down. No earned runs, no runs at all have been tagged to Rector's name. He's pitched really, really confidently to this point, but he has seemed a little bit rattled following that hit by pitch.
I believe that's a dead ball, having hit Metz, so back-to-back hit by pitches. And now, as we mentioned earlier, the only persons that you heard were on the Whitewater bench. Now the only thing you hear is coming from the Tiger dugout. And a man who went deep in the 9th 24 hours ago, Jack Vonderhaar, stepping up to the plate. 1 for 2 here this evening.
You've said it once, things are eerily similar here tonight. Vonderhaar stepping back into the box with 2 runners on in a 3-run ball game, but he'll have to face a different pitcher.
Yeah, and a fantastic job for Rector. He's responsible for the 2 men on. He's still in line to get the victory. Should Bradel come in and shut the door here, but he's got to get a full innings worth in the 9th. If he were able to do it, we'll let him warm up. We'll take a quick break and get ourselves set for the conclusion of this one. You're watching Trinity and University of Wisconsin-Whitewater here, Division III baseball, live from San Antonio. We'll be right back.
Welcome you back in here in San Antonio. New pitcher on the mound for the Warhawks is Trey Bradle. Right-handed sophomore will make his first appearance of the year. His first appearance in his career for Whitewater, but he comes into this one in quite the jam. Inherits a 3-run lead, but the Tigers threatening with 2 runners on here in the bottom of the 9th.
After a first pitch strike to Vonderhaar, that one missing outside, now 1-1. Tying man at the plate for Trinity. Vonderhaar did go deep in the 9th yesterday, and that's going to be way inside for ball 2. Schaub on deck. Vonderhaar 1 for 2. He singled all the way back in his first plate appearance back in the first inning. Since then, he's walked, been hit by a pitch, and struck out looking. That one's up, 3-1.
You hear that crowd continue to get louder and louder as the Tigers get closer and closer to threatening right here in the bottom of the 9th. Vonderhaar way ahead in this count. You have to wonder after a couple of pitches, pretty far outside of the zone, if he'll have the green light or not. If the Tigers will aim to load the bases right here.
That one misses. The bases are loaded for Brian Schaub. If you're a Tigers fan, this is exactly how you wanted this playing out. An opportunity for maybe one of the best walk-off possibilities to be at the plate. But also just in general, if he hits a double, you're putting yourself into a really good spot to, if nothing else, try to just come back and tie the game. It was DeMeyer going deep after Whitewater had tied it at 6. He made it 9-6. Now the opposing right fielder steps in. First pitch up and out of the zone for ball 1.
You have to figure that Schaub is going to have that bat propped up on his shoulder for the majority of this at bat, at least until Bradle can find a way to put one in the strike zone to the Tiger right fielder.
That one misses up as well, 2-0.
Josh, we're not really anywhere close to the field, but we can still feel the tension building here in San Antonio.
The 2-0 from Bradle. That should be a strike, and it is.
Yeah, but if you're Brian Schaub, I think you might like that right there. That just opens the door for the possibility that you're going to get to swing the bat.
Junior transfer out of Richmond, native of Pennsylvania. That was the pitch he wanted. He swung through it, and Bradle now with the advantage, 2-2. Look for a breaking ball. Probably low and away here against Schaub. It's what they've done in his previous at-bats. Schaub with a single, a walk, and 2 strikeouts today. That one's hung, left field line, going back, way back. It's back-to-back walk-offs here for the Tigers. A grand slam after giving up 4 runs in the top of the 9th. The Tigers, with the grand slam, win this one 10-9.
It's almost hard to believe that we're watching a different game here tonight, but we are. It's deja vu. Brian Schaub ends it here in San Antonio. 3 home runs in 2 days as Vonderhaar takes his helmet off and throws it. The top of this inning, you would not have believed that this is how we'd end the game. Almost speechless here in San Antonio after everything processes. But Brian Schaub gets the opportunity to swing the bat after going ahead 2-0, and he delivers for the Tigers, sending them ahead in the series 2-1.
Heartbreaking for Whitewater, but an unbelievable finish once again here for the Tigers. And what just feels like Trinity baseball. Just feel like we have so many of these late heroics. It's kind of just your typical D3 game in a lot of ways. Brian Schaub, his third home run of the series. It was the big one. You see the line score there. 9 runs, 10 hits, 5 errors, 7 left on for Whitewater. 10 runs, 9 hits, 2 errors, and 1 left on base. That's how we're going to end our coverage of this fantastic series. I wish we had tomorrow's game, because that 4th game should be a fantastic one. But Luke, just your thoughts here on what we've seen through the first 3 as we wrap this up.
I mean, it's really difficult to put it into words, but it's just been great baseball played here in San Antonio at Trinity University. Neither of these teams refusing to give up late in the game. You see 2 4 spots put up by both sides here in the 9th inning. Made this an incredibly impressive one to watch, but Trinity, after walking it off last night, wanted to give themselves a little bit more of a difficult project here. Brian Schaub was absolutely up to the task across 2 days. Hard to crown anyone as being more valuable than the Tiger right fielder, who walks it off here in San Antonio with a grand slam. Still almost difficult to believe that that just happened.
Our thanks to our crew, and get a good look at them as we head out for the weekend. We're back with you for Tiger Baseball on Wednesday, March the 9th, as the Tigers host the Sales. Check out social media and either TrinityTigers.com or Wisconsin-Whitewater's athletics page for live stats, links for tomorrow, that game from Wolf Stadium, the AA park of the San Antonio Missions, and back-to-back walk-offs. Fantastic here for Tiger Baseball. You can hear them still celebrating as we will send this one out. Have a great night.